You're being filmed.
Okay.
So, Phil, do you want to just share your story with us, brother?
Okay, my name is Phill. I'm a New Zealand Māori living in Australia. I came over here in 1988 with my 2 sons and my wife. I moved to Australia because I wanted a better life for my family. During that period, in the first 2 years, I had a great job in Melbourne. Me and my wife were saving well, making regular trips back to New Zealand. And somewhere along the line, I thought it was a bit too slow. That I wasn't making enough, and things were slowing down because I had great plans to go back home and buy my own house or even farm. So I got involved to my prior passion at the time, which was drug running. And I did that for a while, and I was pretty good at it in Melbourne. But through it I had mixed with some hard-nosed guys from New Zealand, which I did call friends. So we got in a bit of trouble with the law. So I had to move out of Melbourne, moved to Adelaide, and took it on again. So that was running mainly marijuana, but also speed and other stuff, other drugs and everything else that comes with it. I got heavily into hydroponics and dealing with the bikies to offload my gear. And through that process, I became hard. We had 2 more children in Adelaide, another son and another daughter, and my love for my family took a back step to what I was doing at the time, which was selfish ambition that I realise now. Through it I was very violent, I became violent. I never was home much. My wife loved me, but she was also scared of me, and so were my children. So eventually, after leaving me 3 or 4 times, which she came back, either I dragged her back or she came back on her free will, that she finally left me and came to, at that time I didn't know, it was the Gold Coast. No one told me where she was, because even my best friends were scared of what I would do if I found out. So it was very hard, even for my closest friend, to tell me. And I wasn't in my right state of mind. I was very violent and very unforgiving. So we were apart for a year before my friend told me that she had moved to the Gold Coast, which I pretty much erupted. I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" He told me, he was crying. He said, "Mate, we couldn't tell you, we all knew, but we couldn't tell you till the time was right." And he thought the time was right. Anyway, I left. I was battered and bruised already. I had run out of money. I cut a long story short, I ended up on the street. I was very ashamed to even let anyone know where I was. So I was staying at St. Vinny's in Adelaide for about a month, walking around with a knife, thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to kill myself. What am I going to do? I was very lost. But at that time I was also very proud. I found out after reading this book that a friend had given me that when a man loses everything, he holds on to pride with such tenacity. Well, I was that man. So I ended up in Sydney, where I was on Skid Row and met a lot of guys who were in the same. They were very introverted men. Didn't talk too much about whatever hurts they had, and I didn't really care at the time. I was very still self-centered, and I said to myself, okay, I've got to get on with life. I decided that I could hear the Lord, because I was brought up in a Christian family. I could hear the Lord talking to me, and I said to him one night, I said, Lord, go away. I pretty much told him to get out of my life because he was trying to do things, I could sense my hardened heart softening up and saying, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. But I was also denying it. So when Matthew Talbot, which was the shelter I was in, which is in the cross, I denied the Lord. And 3 days later, it's like I had opened up the door for all his blessings to come upon me, all his visions, which was in dreams. I've shared with my friend Andrew that that an old lady, an old woman in the church, didn't know her. She came up to me and asked to pray for me, and I was still hard. And she said to me, can I pray for you? And I said, look, lady, you don't want to pray for me. You'll burn up. You'll be shattered, because I'm a bad person, which I was calling upon myself. And she says, no, we need to pray. Can I pray for you? I said, it's your choice. She prayed for me, and then she started shaking, and she goes, she says, for the Lord to look after me. So that was that prayer. A week later she prayed for me again. She came out of the woodwork from somewhere, laid hands on me again, told me that I had a wife and 4 children that missed me. And I never gave any particulars to Matthew Talbot's reception when I first entered. And I'm going, how does she know? How does she know I've got a family, and how does she know I've got a wife that is, that I was married? So I looked at her and she goes, your wife wants you home now. And I'm going, look lady, just leave it, I still denied it. Until that night when I had a dream, and I dreamed of my wife coming to Matthew Talbot and asking me to come home. And I said no, because I had already made plans to go hard. And what I mean by going hard is starting up an illegal business in Cross. And that was sort of like coming to fruition through a guy that I had met. But I still couldn't deny, what the Lord was doing. I went back to sleep again, and I had the same dream. My wife came and she was crying this time, and I looked over to my mate, and mate goes, mate, what are you doing? And so I said, no. The third time she came again, this time she said, honey, we want you home and we'll miss you. And then she started walking towards the door. And I realised that then that that'll be the last time I see her. So after that dream, I woke up and I went and saw this friend of mine, told him that I wasn't going to go into this business, that I was going home, which was very hard for him, and I knew that the consequences were going to be pretty tough for myself, but I had a choice. And I made that choice to go home to the Gold Coast. I take this time to thank Matthew Talbot for what they had done there. They had actually embedded in me something that started, and this was 1996, that I can't deny. If it wasn't for my friend Andrew and reminding about this place, I wouldn't even mention it, because it was a really hard place for someone who had a family, who had life expectancies on himself to prove to himself, and he ended up in a place like this. And it was so shameful for me to even acknowledge it, but I'm glad I did. And that's why I'm saying this message. That was 1996. The year is 2012. I came back home, and I said, Lord, come back into my life. And he started making changes. So anyway, from 1996 to 2004, I had relapsed a couple of times, twice. I had gone back to my old ways. I was back on Skid Row again. But every time I'd reach out to the Lord, then I'd deny him, and I'd say I'm not good enough, and then he'd bring me back, and that happened 3 times. I hear testimonies of the Lord working straight away. I seem to think I might be a slow learner, because it took many times. But I'd like to thank the Lord for the last episode. I was on the street for probably 9 months, and I prayed to the Lord one night. I was at the end of my tether, and I said, I am hopeless. My wife had left me again, because I had gone violent again, and I said, this is it. I'm going to end my life. That particular night I ended up in a park where I was sleeping, and I looked over the building, and I said, that's the building. I'm going to jump off and end my life. I cried out to the Lord, and I said, Lord, give me a sign, give me one reason why I should live. And I looked up, and I saw the star, and the star was actually over in the vicinity of my wife's house, because I knew where she stayed, and it was shining really bright. So I said, look, Lord, okay, I will do anything you ask me to do, anything. I just want my family back, and I want to get back on the track again. And he said, I want you to go to Set Free Care, which is a feeding program. I've heard about it in Southport. I didn't want to go down that. I denied it. I didn't want to go there. I fought with him pretty much all that night not to go. But I got my butt there the next day, unwillingly. And a man there, his name was Derek, gave his testimony. And he was a heroin user for many years. And he got up, he couldn't speak, he wasn't... He wasn't a speaker. Anyway, he's got up and he says, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know that the Lord loves me. And he was stuttering a bit. People were laughing, and I told those people to keep quiet because I wanted to hear what he had to say. And he says, I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I know that all things are possible through the Lord. So that time, that man's testimony really broke into me. Really touched my heart. I actually got up, I hugged him, I said to him, mate, that's the best speech I have ever heard. Where everyone was laughing, I was rejoicing because it touched me. Because I've seen what heroin does, I've seen what drugs do, I've seen, I will give up, and I've seen them go back. I've never seen one come up with so much faith in his heart to say that the Lord can do this. And it changed my life. A week later, I gave my heart. I renewed my vows with the Lord. and I started my journey again. It's been 2004. I've been serving with Set Free now and in Set Free Care since then. I am so thankful for the Lord for what He has done in my life. I have my family back who love me. I have 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way. I am a very, very happy man. I do not deserve through what I have done, but God has forgiven me for my sins. He has placed blessings in front of me. I now do not try to make things happen, because I know the Lord has set a path for me. First of all, it was hard, then it got harder, then I thought I wasn't worth it. But He has set a path for me, and He's not only set it for me, but He's set it for each and one of my family members and my extended family, which is the church that I serve in. And those who are my neighbours, whether I befriend or who I meet, or who God sends to me, or who God sends me to. I know that many of you have gone through similar, especially men, gone through down a similar road. I have done time back in New Zealand. I know the feeling of being locked up and not having your family around you. But I am so thankful that my journey now is going to be successful. I'm going to live my life to the fullest. And my children and my children's children are going to live their life to the fullest. Because I pray for them every day, as my mum did when I was in Matthew Talbot, as my mum did when I was selling drugs, as my mum did and my dad when I was in jail. There's only one gift she had given me, and she never came to visit me once, and that was the Bible. I didn't know how to read it. I wouldn't touch it because I thought it was too tapu or holy. But just to have that Bible beside my bed showed me something, that even though my children mightn't know the Lord, not all my children know the Lord yet, or their grandchildren, or their children, I know that through my prayers that God will answer and He will look after them. I know this is true. I witness to it. The evidence is evidence in my life. I now have a stable home, stable family, and a wife that I really love. And I love people. I really believe that I was born for it at the beginning. And now my time has come, at the age of 52 years old, to complete His good work. I pray that for each and every one who hears this message, wherever you are, there is hope for each and every one of us to give back what Satan has taken away from us. In Jesus' name, amen.